Coach Eloms. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the show. We'll let you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys for inviting me to this platform. So, gotta tell a quick story. When I saw the invite, went to the page, and I was like, yes, finally. Not finally, but it's few and far between where we have a platform that gives a space for track and field athletes and coaches and people that are pouring into the sport because we know it's not the most popular, not the most sexy sport, but it is a sport that a lot of kids have passion and they just are looking for guidance. So kudos to you guys for creating this platform for the athletes in the area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So about myself, so currently I am the Fishers Sprint coach. I've been there 2 years, going on my third year. I've been there for the last 3 years, and then within that 3 years, we finished. Last year, we finished fourth in sectionals, sixth in regionals, and then also second at county. Also finishing off with a state champion, two state records in the 100 meter. I'm sorry, two personal records in the 100 meter for our school. And then also on our guys side, we finished as state champions overall as a team at state last year. So now going forward, what we're looking to do is just to continue to build on that momentum with the athletes that we have, just continue to make a strong program.
And nice.
Hey,
We had a couple of yours early on. Those are like our first people. I was like,
yes,
Fishers back to
yes,
back, girl side, boys side. Okay.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely big things. Coach, how did you get into coaching?
Oh, good question. So it was crazy. I graduated from Indiana University as a track athlete and then later moved to Indianapolis. So I'm from Buffalo, New York. But when I moved here, it was crazy. I had like this pull where I wanted to try to help because I decided that I didn't want to continue to pursue track and field and I was going to be done after college. So I reached out to Dee Dee Nathan, who is a former Olympian, local. I think she's a local celebrity. She's been a mentor to me. And I told her I was interested in training. And so she reached out to Harry Edwards, who was then the owner of Indies Racing Cheetahs. And she told him, and she said, I got somebody who I know would be really great for the program. And so from there was history. And that was back in like 2022, 2011. I'm sorry, 2011. And I coached with the Indies Racing Cheetahs for about 12 years, on and off. And so that's really where I got my start truly in coaching.
Oh, wow. Harry came up in somebody else's conversation.
Right. And I knew I kept looking at you, Coach. I'm like, I know her from somewhere other than Fishers. That's
Yeah,
what it is, the Cheetahs.
yeah. That's where
That's
I got my
that's it.
start.
I kept looking. I'm like, I know her.
Yep. And so the storm would have it. We shared a lot of athletes too. So I had,
Yes.
you know, let's see, Alyssa Robinson, can't think of her name right now. She's down in Texas now. Ramaya Elliott. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of those kids, Camille Christopher, they all started with the Cheetahs, matriculated up, moved to the Storm, and then went on to do great things. So definitely heard a ton about, it's a small world in track and field, but definitely that's where I got my start, learned a ton, made a lot of great relationships. And so that's just really kind of moved me to where I am today.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how'd you get on with Fishers?
So it was crazy. So it was not something that I had planned. I actually started coaching in the district because my daughter took an interest in track and field in like the sixth or seventh grade, and they needed a sprint coach. And so, understanding in the school system, a lot of times there's limited resources. So for me, I said, if I have the knowledge, then why not try to help? So coached her eighth grade year in at HIJH and Fish in the district of Hamilton County. So did that, and then I was done after that. So then she moved on to her freshman year, and then our head sprint coach at the time took a position as one of the assistant principals, so she could no longer coach. Well, my husband, they had the year before asked him to come on as a jumps coach, and so even then he was not planning on doing that. And he's like, "Look, I can only do this part time. Want to come out and help?" And so he did. And so when that came up, he and another coach said, "Hey, we have another coach." But as you can imagine, just think as a head coach for a high school team, and you're saying, well, you have two kids on a team. My wife wants to come on a team coaching their kids. Sometimes that can be a little bit of a problem because you got favoritism and all that kind of stuff. So I think that our head coach was a little bit hesitant at the time, but then he, did some research and things. And so he brought me on. And so then the rest was history. So it really was because someone moved over And then, they asked me to move on, and then we've been going from there.
So you talked about your excitement, when you first got the invite and seeing the platform that we have to get, voices out about the sport, coaches, athletes. What is it specifically about the sport that you love?
I love the accountability, honestly. I love it because, when you think about any other sport that you are in, you can take some plays off, you can kind of hide in the background, let your teammates cover you up. But really and truly, the way I see, and now that I've, coaching, because I coached high school athletes, but on the club level, but now just fully in high school, now you're talking about young adults. So everything that I do relates back to life. And when you talk about accountability, that's on both sides. You're talking about coaches and both athletes. And so if you're running, even if it's a relay, so that's the most team you're going to get, outside of your overall team in sports, but even on a relay, I make sure that they understand we all need each other, all four people. We cannot do this without each other. So if you're not communicating, if you are not dialed into the details, if you're not focused, then guess what? That impacts three other people. So I love the fact that whether it's a relay or if it's an individual race, you have to make sure that you are dialed into what you're doing, or else you're going to be exposed. And nobody wants that. So me as a coach, I'm making sure that I'm on my stuff so that my kids are in the best position and prepared, when they hit that line. And then also my kids, I'm like, okay, we did this, we prepared. Now it's your turn. Now it's your time to shine. What are you going to do? And so I love that because it really helps build up work ethic, accountability. And then also after they see that, they can dial into the details and do it, then it builds their confidence. And that's most important.
That's awesome. I love that. The
Yeah.
accountability is right.
It sure is.
Tell you.
And then the other part is having them prepared. Because I tell the kids all the time, on meet day, I'm a spectator.
Absolutely. We are done. I'm here to support you. Do you have any questions? Do you need me to take you up? Other than that, it's your day to shine. I'm here to, and I asked them, you guys know Maya Taylor. She'll tell you, on the day of the meet, I asked her, what do you need? What is it that I can do for you so that you're okay? Because we've already done everything we did throughout the week. So right here and now, do you need some spice? You need some water? Because I'll look at your stars, but we're ready. We are ready to go. You got this. And so that I love the fact that, to your point, coach, you can be a spectator when you know that you've prepared.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little off topic.
Sure.
I love that shirt.
Yeah, I was looking at it too. I'm like, yeah, after this, I'm definitely gonna say I want one. I want one.
I know.
Let me
Well,
know
we
how
were
to
talking
order.
about that
Gotcha.
earlier. Coach and I were talking about, with our kids, it's like you got to put some force into the ground if you're trying to run.
It's
Yes.
violent. It's
Yeah,
violent.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they be timid, like, oh, it's like,
Oh
right.
my gosh.
this ain't no dance foot.
No, it's very violent and it's controlled. But I really hung on to this term, and this is part of our mantra for Top Speed, and I'll make sure that you guys get a shirt because really what this is like you said, it is a conversation piece. Like when people talk about speed training, they think, oh, I'm gonna get out there and do a couple little ins and outs. That's not what that is. Speed is very intentional. If you truly are looking to increase and improve your speed. So that means how you approach it really is going to dictate on how the outcome is. Because if you approach it incorrectly, because it's violent, you could end up being injured. But if you approach it in another way, in which you're intentional about your reps and your rest and your velocity, now that makes you a whole new athlete. You can now level up everything that you're doing. So it's not a bad thing, but people need to understand that speed is indeed violent and that it is definitely something that you don't just pick up. It is something that you have to work at, and it is something that you have to be very intentional about. And if you're not, it could end up going in the opposite direction, but then also it can do very beautiful things.
Yeah. So I really like that. Now you said top speed athletics, that's your training.
Yes. Yep. So in 2018, my husband and I started the training company. It was really an idea. We both so my husband graduated from Ball State. He graduated he was a long jump. He was the Indiana State long jump champion, and then also went on to Ball State to do short sprints and then long jump. And so he did really well there. Made all conference 3 times. So with our past and everything that we've been able to accomplish, for us, we were like, well, we can't just hold this, you know? What can we do about it to serve in our community? And so right here in Fishers, and then now we're trying to go beyond with our online coaching, really trying to help develop athletes that are curious, athletes that really want to train with intention and want to know the why and the how. And so that's been kind of the foundation of our training company. And it's not sports specific. So I know a lot of times we get pigeonholed because we do have track background, but we do train athletes across all sports. Because there's very, very much so many similarities between, you know, what you need to do in terms of movement. And so we've been able to touch many sports in doing so.
Wanting to give it back, which leads me to my next question. It's like you know, all that experience and wisdom that you have, you want to pour into current and future athletes. What would you say is that your core philosophy?
Yep. So my core philosophy is, and I kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. So the key thing is you must train with intention. And I'm actually writing a book. It'll come out early next year. It's called The Power of Preparation. And with that, really, it gives you a framework and understanding that whatever it is that you do, and this is some life stuff too, but whatever it is that you do, no matter the sport, no matter the day of the workout, you have to understand what the overall goal is. And when you understand what the overall goal is, then you can ask, on this particular day, are the things that I'm doing leading up to that goal? If they're not, then you're not training with intention. You need to understand the why and how. Why are you doing what you're doing? We're not just out there just doing stuff just to do it. It means something. And if you don't know what it means, then you need to ask. So the second part of my philosophy is around curiosity. So you have to remain curious. And the reason why I say that is I tell my kids all the time, this is your body. This is your body. I am your coach. I help develop and I help facilitate you and the things that you need to do to meet your goal. But ultimately, you have to take ownership in this. And if I'm just telling you what to do day in and day out, and you have no clue why you're doing it, you don't know really if this is the goal to get you better or not. You have to make sure that if there's something that you're doing in training, if something is confusing, you need to be curious because it is your body, not mine, yours. You're the one that, as coach said, I'm the spectator. On the day that we have the track meet, you're putting your body on the line.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do all of those things. You feel like death when you come across that line in the 400 and you want to see Jesus. You know, that's you, not me. I'm just cheering you on. I'm a cheerleader, you know? So you have to be curious about what you're doing and operating. And I know that sometimes it's a little controversial because I hear some coaches say, you know, don't question a coach. Well, for me, if you're coming to me respectfully and you're saying, hey, coach, what does that mean? Guess I'm never going to not answer. And if I don't know the answer for whatever question you have, I'm going to go find out. And I don't think that that's disrespectful. I think that you are taking ownership of your development because you want to know what's going on with your body.
Right.
And the last thing is just compete. So in everything, you have to compete with what you're doing in practice before you get to a track meet. So it goes back to the term speed is violence. So if we're not doing true speed training or agility training or whatever it is, and we're not doing it max velocity or at least close where we're trying to simulate, or if you're not looking to compete against your teammates in practice, you're going to be extra nervous in a track.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Extra nervous. You know why? Because guess what? You haven't been doing this, and now all of a sudden I'm putting you in front of these bright lights, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be, nerves are good, but not to the point where you feel like, oh my gosh, you know, you shaking like a leaf and you can't handle it. So all of that has to do with the things that you do leading up to competition, and that's competing in practice. And I strongly believe in that. I used to joke with our varsity athletes last year, you know, I would tell my JV athletes, beat them.
Right.
I need you to be on them.
Yes.
Nobody is devoid of losing in a rep or anything. I need you to go. So
Mm-hmm.
you do not, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Maya, name anybody.
Right.
And I would say it in front of the varsity because I needed them to understand that this is real. And if you don't figure this out in practice, then you won't be able to have the optimal performance that you're looking to do when you compete in a track meet.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a great way to keep them, in line and to
Yeah.
keep them active in practice, to focus in, you
You
know,
better
hold
lock
them
in.
accountable, all those things, because you can, you know, they some people get those frights when they get out there, and you can see it, and you know those people, and
Mhm.
Yeah,
that is I
they look
think that's a
scared.
tremendous
Right.
culture
And
to
then
build within your team.
Mhm.
yeah, and then also the part about explaining the why
Yeah,
behind your training is really important. And that shows your great framework or your wisdom with coaching, right? You know, you have a lot of coaches who can't really explain the why behind we're doing this in practice.
sure.
But being able to explain that to the athlete helps them to understand, like, okay, if I do this, this is what will help me get better.
Mhm.
This is what core actually means. It's not just the abs in the front. It's your hip
No,
flexor, your
it's
back,
Right.
everything.
that. And so that kudos to you as a coach for having that space for athletes to ask and question respectfully
Thank you.
why.
But also to that, I just need to add, I don't know everything. And I'll tell my kids that I know what I know now because I ask. I'm
Mhm.
curious about my own development. So just because you ask me a question doesn't necessarily mean now if it's in the plan, I know why we're doing it. But I get questions all the time. And so I also try to lead by example by letting them know, look, I look at other coaches online, I have mentors, I have collegiate coaches that I speak with
Mhm.
because my constant development and evolution as a coach is also like their development and evolution is contingent upon mine. If I don't evolve, if I don't learn, then I can't continue to bring them forward. So the fundamentals are the fundamentals, but there are definitely things out there that you can always learn. And I have no shame with asking my peers, questions on the how and what's worked for them and things like that. And I, like I said, this platform is great because it does, I think, open up that space where I think some coaches feel like, maybe insecure for asking. I say, I don't know everything.
Mhm.
And so I'm constantly learning and that'll never stop.
Yeah, that's what got me actually going is that I knew when I first started coaching, I'm not gonna say the year, but it's been a while. It's been a long time ago. But I had a group of kids who came who I was coaching and they were coming to the school I was at.
Mhm.
And I was like, in order for me to really serve them, I got to get myself together. It's like I went and did all
Hey,
my USATF trainings.
yep,
I went all through all the way to level 3. I was doing it all like I gotta know because this crew
absolutely.
here is gonna demand that. You can't just it's an injustice that to serve or you're not serving them if you don't know what you're doing and you're afraid to ask.
Right.
Absolutely.
I
Right.
find that problematic. And there's a lot of kids who are a lot of coaches who are some are a little bit prideful
Yeah.
and then they get a superstar athlete and then they don't know how to really handle like that. And then you see this relationship and the kids falling off and in
Yeah.
terms of performance and it
Lose
creates a lot
everything.
of bad blood in there.
100%. Prime example, I'll say this. So, Coach Ware, I got on a phone call with you when Maya Taylor, an athlete that you coach, I coached when she was having hip issues last year. And I wanted to speak with you because as a coach, if I operate in a silo and say, well, the workout is the workout, how is that serving the athlete? How
Right.
is that working as for that athlete's development? So me leaning on you and understanding, okay, from a medical standpoint, this is what we should do. All that has to go together. Like we can't
Mhm.
say, well, I'm just doing me and then she's gonna go over there. No, like that,
Right.
all those things matter. And that to me, I thought was that was honestly, I think one of the main reasons why she had the year that she had, because we had to stay in communication through her on what was working and what wasn't working so that we can get to the finish line.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
mean,
And I
it all
appreciate
worked
it.
out because
Yes.
you want
It
to
took a
Yes.
be a
village though.
champion.
It
It
wasn't just
takes a
you.
village. I was gonna say it takes a village, and I mean for
Yeah.
you to be humble enough, right, to
Absolutely.
understand that it takes that village.
Can't
I mean
do that.
that's commendable to you as a coach.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That's
really
the truth.
is
Yeah.
because with all there's very few like with all the athletes I work with, you're probably the first one that just was like, I want to talk to you. I want to know exactly what's what and let's and am I doing anything that could be
That's it.
disrupting her and not allowing her to be, what she needs to be.
Mhm.
So I thought that was yeah, kudos.
Thank you. That was
Yeah.
important to me. And I appreciate you, the collaboration And then of course after that, we see each other. And so it just widens the coaching community. So meeting both of you guys and that I've gotten that same vibe where some coaches, they don't necessarily, they want to hold all the secrets. And I'm like, okay, I mean, that's fine. But then I'm not sure who that's serving besides yourself.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's about the athletes, right? You at the end of the day,
Yes.
you want them to compete to the best of their ability, whether they're on your team or
100%.
not, right? And so you want the best for them. Like you think
Yes.
about the state of Indiana, like you want the best for these athletes to
Yeah.
shine, even if it's not on your team. So that's
100%.
really, really important when we can lean into each other for that,
It's everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What would you say are key areas of development you kind of focus on with your athletes? You talked about, there are things on the track, but off the track as well. So how do you kind of balance both on
Yeah.
and off the track focus?
Yeah, so as y'all deal with kids all the time, kids face a lot these days. They've got not just sports, just life, the social media, it's just a lot, right? So I think it's kind of crazy if you don't see the whole athlete. Like, yes, they're on the track with me for like 2 hours. Actually, one. We live the other hour. Our training is an hour. So that's a very, very small sample set to their entire life. So I'm also a mindset coach, and that's part of our services for Top Speed Athletics. And part of the focus has to be, in my opinion, in my philosophy, has to be your mindset. Because when you think about everything that you do, if I point to the camera, if I touch my head, everything started here. Like my brain had to tell my hand to do that. So when you think about it in simple terms, if everything starts in the mind, and if the mind isn't being developed, but only the body is being developed, then we're leaving a lot on the table. Now, obviously, we know mindset training, and that has not been a norm for a long time. So we know that we're just getting into this really, really and truly. But now that we know better, we have to understand that there are athletes that could have done so much better had it not been for had it been not been from them not working on their mindset and shifting that. So a lot of athletes, they really kind of strive just off of ability. And obviously they get out there and work, but life happens. And when you can really tap into that mindfulness, that to me, I've seen a change in so many of my athletes. And so that is also incorporated in our training. So outside of the mindset, we also work on very technical things and just in terms of drills. I tell the kids all the time, I know drills are boring, but it's truly the setup to how you're going to be. So if you are not drilling correctly, then I can't expect you to run properly on the track. Like it's just not going to be the same. So those are the two main things that we really focus on. And that's our foundation to anything across sports. Those are the two things that have to go. And it's wrapped into the training. So like, for instance, we do visualization. So that's huge because you can do those reps over and over again without hurting your body. And it's just like we say studying for a test. If I gave you a study guide and we went through and walked through that, I think you're gonna feel a little bit more confident, going into your test when it's time if you've really gone through that study guide. So those kind of things, and then also breathing. So I try to tell my athletes, don't just use it, when you are trying to center yourself for competition, use it in life. I just used it the other day. I was stressed out. And I use it because it is truly, these are all life applications. I'm only going to get you for a little bit of time. And even if you're a great athlete, you're only going to be doing sports for a little bit of time. And then the rest of your life, you have to be a person. So those things, your mindfulness, that mindset, positive mindset, and then just working on the foundation of anything that you want to do it has to be part of what we do all the time.
I love all that. I was
Okay, like right. She
Yeah,
hitting on
yeah,
so many, so
yeah,
many
right up
notes.
my alley. The whole visualization thing, we talk about that all the time. And
It's
that's something I remember because when I first got started, I was coaching at a school that didn't have a track. And I was
oh
like,
man.
we got to work this out. And we
Yeah.
stayed on that type of stuff in terms of visualization, running the reps in your head, really like building the chemistry with the kids. And I mean, at the end of the day, they like broke a couple state records.
There you
Um,
go.
you know, and relays, right? We didn't even have a
Yeah.
track to practice handoffs. And it was just,
Right.
Oh, you couldn't
Good.
even, oh, that's no, so that's next
Good.
level. That's
That I was
next
gonna
level.
say that's on the whole.
Yeah, because my relays did well at state, but it's because we actually were able to practice.
yeah,
That's impressive.
we didn't
That's
have it.
amazing.
That's what I was saying. It was like we were really, really into that early on.
Really
You
cool.
know, so yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then getting the kids to be able to see themselves accomplishing some things and just
Yeah.
putting it, sometimes you have to plant that seed, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we've had a couple kids, we had to plant a seed, and then boom, when it happens, they just like, what? And
Yeah.
they, shock themselves
Mhm.
Right.
You
because
will
it's
surprise
one of
yourself.
those things where they,
Mhm.
they may not be fully aware of their capabilities. And
Yes.
so once they get it, then
Sky's the limit.
yeah. And
Mhm.
that's a
It's a
beautiful
beautiful
thing
thing.
there.
And you see that light bulb come on, it's a beautiful thing. So we started doing film study last year. So we use one of the LGI rooms and we just go through race plans. So race modeling, 400, 200, 100, and we break it down frame by frame. What is this person doing here? Why are they doing this in the phase of the race that they're doing it? What phase of the race is this? What position should you be in this race? What velocity, all those things. And we found that, you can't run day and night. Like you can, but you'll be just sitting on the sideline with me because you'll be
Right.
hurt. But, if you can do those things, like you said, visually, and then also I'm showing you, we're going through this and you're learning this and applying it through the film study, that's another rep. Those are more reps and it doesn't have to be physical and it's feeding this
Mhm.
while we're also doing that on the track. And so when those two come together, it's an amazing thing to see.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, like, not necessarily, well, from a neurological perspective, if you keep running these patterns over and over in your head,
Mhm.
right? Part of that visualization, your body doesn't know the difference between
Mhm.
reality and a vividly
Mhm.
imagined dream.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
becomes a matter of execution,
Yes.
right? So it's no longer about, oh, I got to work to do this. It's just executing on the program. And
That's
that
right.
makes it so much easier to do.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's
So
where
that,
drills come in. So if you're drilling properly and you run these in your head, now you've put the proper technique with how you're visualizing running properly and what you want to do. And I'm telling you, it's everything. And even in the book, when I talk about preparation, you can't, it's so ridiculous. I see programs where they'll have not just in track, just across the board. Well, they'll do all these different trainings, and then in a game or a competition, it looks different. But they just been doing the template training, even though
Right.
the team has a different need.
Mhm.
right.
So they don't work on that need. They just keep the plan that's going. And then they're like, well, how come y'all not getting better? Well, because you all week you studied for geometry and then on Friday you took an algebra test. So
Right.
it's not going to correlate. So you gotta make it make sense. Put those two things together. And then when it's game time, you'll see them, they have some confidence. Not to say you'll be mistakeless, but you'll definitely see an elevation in their game.
Right. They'll
Yeah.
be more locked in for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
I
So
like it.
how do you like with this visualization with like just the way you coach and how you approach it, how do you cater to newcomers versus the vets on the team? How do you balance that?
Yeah, so it's definitely been interesting and a challenge. So on our team, we've had up to about 130 sprinters. That's a
Wow.
lot of kids, and that's between
Wow.
the boys and the girls program. So you can imagine
That's an
it.
adventure.
Yes, it is. But it stretches us as coaches. My husband and I, we found ways to just make it work along with other coaches that we have on the team. Coach Tarter, she's also been a part of this journey as well, our hurdle coach. And so, right now, so I'll give you a real life example. So right now we are in off season. So, track is not mandatory. There's a ton of athletes that are not there yet because they're in other sports. They have other things going on. Well, we have quite a bit of our JV kids that are training right now. And we see that as a great opportunity because when we get to that 130, it gets really tough. So
Hmm.
we take the smaller group. Right now, we're working with about 40 kids, and we are drilling and drilling and drilling. And today we did resisted projection starts because obviously we're not doing block starts, but just the movement itself and
Hmm.
understanding the aggression that you need to have. All these little details when it takes time. So even today we stationed it. So we had some kids at that station, other kids were working on their flying tens, and then others were working on core because the details of even the projection starts is a lot. You're talking about shin angles and your arm movement, your head position, hip height, all those things. And so that's a lot of reminders. And so as you can imagine, when it's a lot of kids, you cannot necessarily get to that level of detail. So we really take advantage of the off season to
Mm-hmm.
get into those. And so then with our kids that have a little bit more ability, they tend to catch on, or they're veterans, they've, been in the program. And then a lot of times you'll see where, the kids that kind of nail it, then the other kids see it. And, kids, I still think a lot of times kids learn better from kids. And so, you know,
Yes.
so,
So we won't have to keep showing them the drills
yes,
and hurt ourselves.
either by that or peer pressure. And they like, oh, shoot, I got to look like them. So, they'll get up there and they'll try to drill like them. So, their confidence is definitely higher when our kids that have a little bit more ability when they come. But we do spend this time. We start like in August, end of August, September-ish, and we spend a lot of time on the drills and the technical drills and movement and the shapes that you need to have when you're sprinting and running.
Now that's I'm that number, whew,
Yeah, it's crazy.
130.
I know.
There's only 8 lanes on the track, and you only get
So
two most of the time in an event. So
we have, for whatever reason, we have 10, 10 lanes at Fishers. I don't know why.
well, we
It's
have 10 in North Central, but by
oh
the same token, you only getting two.
yes, that's
That's
it.
the
You're
that's the
right about
club
that.
track numbers.
You only get two.
Yeah, I'm curious because
Yeah.
I had a similar experience because I used to be at Carmel and I was out there and it was like on the girl side
Oh,
alone, it was like 50 sprinters. I found it to be a challenge because when you have 50 sprinters on one side, not everybody is a sprinter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
they
you
better
have
be
to
though.
differentiate and then you have to make sure you don't get so distracted that you're, Susie needs a bike workout and Janie needs a treadmill workout because this hurts or that hurts. But then you have this core group that's solid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not miss out on those people when you have such a big group? And then how do you catch or how are you able to catch the younger crew, like the freshmen that come in,
Yeah.
to know what to build into that solid group?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
for me, I had to go to okay, these are my numbers. We're testing. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't test well, if you're not in the top 24 in the testing, then
Mhm.
we'll move you to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Middle
That's right.
distance will work, maybe throws will work, maybe this.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
know, I had to go that route with them.
Yes. Well, that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant because I did it too. But yeah, yeah. So to that point, coach, we do the same thing. So there's another piece to that. But yes, so we are not allowed to, cut and track. I think that's across the board. So to your point, that's our way. And it's not because we don't want to work with everyone, but to your point, we understand like only so many people are going to get through. When you talk
Mm-hmm.
about these track meets and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's got to be a number, and everybody can't go.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, what we did was we did a time trial we did a 40 time trial, and we set a standard, and we said if you hit this standard, then you can run the 1 and the 2. If you don't hit the standard, then you're relegated to the 2 or the 4 or field events. And a lot of the kids had tried field events and it just, didn't
Mm-hmm.
didn't go. So then they're back with sprints. And again, I encourage kids, like I see kids and I'm like, I really think that you would be a good 800-meter runner. I really do.
Yes.
Not because I want to train you, but I'm telling you, I think you'd be served better
Right.
there because you're not a short sprinter,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
but they don't want to hear that. They just have this visceral reaction. They're like, oh my God, like, I cussed them out or something. I'm like, no, I'm just but they don't like the 800 and anything longer when really I'm like, I think that's your home.
Right.
So we can't force kids to do that. So we do that timing standard. And then with the elite athletes or the top tier athletes that we have on the team, to your point, we can't neglect them. So yes, we
Mm-hmm.
got a whole team, but I have to make sure that the ones that are on the top are still growing and thriving and all those things. So a lot of times what we do in our workouts, I will give certain athletes a different time. So they'll have the same workout,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll have a different time. So it might be a second or so different. So for instance, if I tell the girls to run 21 in the 150s or 20 in the 150s, that other person may have to run 19.
Mm-hmm.
They have the same rest as everybody else. And also, if they're struggling with, so say if they're out there and running against the clock, which we know is hard, and they don't really have competition. So their training partner and everyone is the same assigned training partners. But if it's a situation where they don't have one that's in similar ability, then I have a girl train with the boys,
Mm-hmm.
boys. You know, that to me is the best way I've been able to find a balance to make sure that we're still developing our JV talent, and then also not holding back our varsity talent with the number of athletes that we have. And it works pretty well. I think the biggest thing is making sure you keep your top athletes motivated, because if they're constantly winning reps, you got to keep challenging them, because
Right.
they'll be, even if they hit it at 19 like I asked them to, they may, if it's a day where you need to go, they could have gone faster than they probably won't. So I got to keep playing this
Mm-hmm.
mouse game with them. So I will put them with some comparable boys, and I'll tell them, you better beat them. I don't care about boy, girl.
Right,
You better
right,
get it
right.
and
Exactly.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're dealing with a lot of athletes. 130, that's like I was saying, it's like summer club
Yeah,
numbers
that's
where you,
correct.
you perhaps have more people, the coaches are taking a break from the school year. How do
Mm.
you involve your parents, if at all? How's the school involved or
Mm.
local community? And if you do involve them, how do you go about that?
Yes, I think we probably could do a better job with that. The parents, they definitely have, like last year, I'm going to my third year. So yeah, last year, for the first time, we had a fundraiser. And so the parents were involved with that, just in terms of helping us get the things that we needed for the program. So we are able to raise money there. And then just in terms of like development, any parents that I talk to, so we have an app, Sports U, where we have workouts we'll put in there, or for breaks, I might put in some tips and things like that. And so the parents can see that as well. And I do think, to your point though, one of the things that we probably can do this year is be more intentional about having them support their athletes from home. A lot of times you don't have that because they're like, well, I never ran track, or I don't know sports.
Mhm.
When really you don't have to. It's more about supporting, what we have there, and we, make it very plainly, and then just making sure that they're carrying that through and taking it seriously when they're with us. So from a community standpoint, I would say that's probably the extent of it. There are a couple more things that we're looking to do this year, just in terms of including more of the student body. So like, one of the things I requested was that we have an announcer at our track meets, and not an adult. I want a student to go out there and put their own spin on the meet, and
Love
then
it.
try to have music, you know what I mean?
I
Because
love it.
I mean, it's track and field. I love track. Y'all love track,
You're
but
right.
you
You
have to,
know it.
yeah, you got to make it appetizing, and so that we can get more community support. And so I try to meet people where they are. I mean, we have music in practice. As long as they're locked in, I don't care. And I make sure that they have the music songs, the clean version that they like.
Right,
And
right.
but really and truly, they're still working. Like, they still getting after it and everything, but it is a culture in which kids, my own son who's on a team, he says track practice is fun. Now, I don't know,
Yes.
if that's a good thing or bad, but and he does well. But ultimately, I think it's because of the atmosphere, because we are absolutely working. It's not like we're sitting around playing patty cake, but it's just how you present it. And then the athletes, it's just a little bit more appetizing for them to work and be motivated to continue to improve.
Again, you have 13 plus years with club, and now this is your third year with Fishers. There's so much more that you can hear that you want to do,
Yeah.
and you're already doing that. So
Thank you.
I'm excited to see how the program continues to grow under your leadership for sure.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And I have another
Okay.
fundraiser for you. I, we'll talk about it later.
You said
But
you got one?
yeah, it's another. It's pretty cool.
Let's go.
Yeah, a guy I know. He does a lot of different things for all the different sports,
Okay.
but there are big fundraising opportunities, and
Mhm.
it's a pretty cool thing.
Love to hear it. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We got trade secrets. I mean, I know
Uh,
one of the things we tried to do last year was a indoor golf. So like X golf, because people like golf. And so it was issues with the paperwork, like the receipts and all that kind of stuff. But that's one thing, that we found to do, that we will do. Just different stuff like that, just to make sure we have all the equipment and there's no excuse for why we can't get to where we need to get to as a team.
mhm.
Nice.
So if we were college coaches and you wanted to tell us who to be on the lookout for this year, shout them out.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so I would say on the lookout this year, we have a few very promising. And here's the thing: this is not an exhaustive list. I expect this list to grow. Like it's
Right, absolutely.
so a few really good performers that have been really making gains in the off season. Xenia Bonetta, she was also on our 4x1 relay actually for the last 2 years. So her freshman and sophomore year, she was on our state relays. Her first year they got second. Last year they got fourth at state, and I'm expecting big things on an individual basis from her on top of the relay. Another, and I know this sounds super biased, but she is my daughter, Devin Day. She has made huge gains over the summer. I work with her. She's worked with another coaching friend of mine. We've collaborated together, and she's really making a lot of gains this year. And actually, let me back up. So Xenia Pineda, you will expect her in the 200, all the way up to the 400. She
Okay,
probably doesn't want to hear the 400, but
that's okay.
she's got range like that, and she's going to do well. And then also Devin Day, my daughter, she's a 100, 300 hurdle, 200, 4x4. So she has range in that area. So she just picked up hurdles last year. I think after about 4 performances, she ran like a 46, 7 or so. And she still's got, she had a ton of room to grow. So definitely expecting some great performances from her. And then I would say to round off, I would say Kylie Black. She is a sophomore. She made her first appearance on our relay last year. And for her, she would be a 200 person on top of the relay, but definitely expecting big things from her as well.
So we ready to see it. You're getting us excited.
Right.
I'm ready to go.
Now
There's gonna be more.
they're welcome to join the show at any time now.
Right.
I'm sure they'd be happy to do it.
Yes, for sure. We would love to have them for
Yeah.
sure.
Let's talk then.
Because that's our thing. We want to let them be exposed, let people know who they are. Because
Hmm.
like track meet, you may be in the stands and they are
Hmm.
on the other side of the track or down in the long jump pit or whatever. You can't get to them.
Hmm.
So this is their opportunity to kind of, for people to get to know them. So that's
Yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah.
Absolutely. And many of the athletes in the area, I think there's a lot of great athletes around and just they're doing great things. And I think like our team, it was a little bit heavier between two athletes. So we had, Maya Taylor and Maria Benjamin. They both went on to college to run track. But this year it looks different from a balance standpoint. So I think we'll get our points um, across sprints, and then also, so not just from two, probably from 3 or 4 on a varsity level, and then also from our jumps. So we
Hmm.
have more strength in jumps. We have Travis Rogers, who is our jumps coach there, and he coaches pole vault, high jump, and long jump. He did them all in college. So very knowledgeable, and they were really starting to climb here
Hmm.
this way last year. He came a little bit later. So a lot of great things happening in the off season there. So I think we'll have a really balanced team from a performance standpoint, and I'm really excited about that. So for me, I'm like, I want everybody to eat. So if we can,
Yes,
do that across the board and everybody's eating, to me, that's my dream.
I love it. We are
Yeah.
excited. So, Coach, if we want to follow you or your athletes, share your social media pages.
Sure. So for Fisher's Track, it's Fisher's Track and Field on Instagram. And then for Top Speed, our training company, it's Top Speed Athletics on Instagram, Top Speed Athletics on Facebook. We also are on TikTok, Top Speed Athlete there, and YouTube. YouTube, we've taken on just recently. We'll have actually more lengthy videos there where we talk through coaching philosophy, the how. We're actually recording some of our workouts and how we do some of our training, our approach. So you can find some of that, some more of that material at length on YouTube.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
we are excited. And it's all love every time we see you.
absolutely.
So,
Right.
Absolutely.
wishing you
Really
the best
appreciate
of luck
you.
for this year. And we definitely will be seeing each other
Yes,
soon for indoor.
yes.
Yeah.
So let's stay in touch. Definitely share information, collaborate,
Yes.
get these
Send us
athletes
those
going.
hoodies or sweatshirts. Speed is
I got
violent.
you.
We ready. Like, let us know the
I
car.
got you.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it'll
There you
be in the
go.
mail.
All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Absolutely.